බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීක්‍රගාමී රසේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්. බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීක්‍රගාමී රසේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්.
On satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Making headlines first at 9. Punishing wrongdoers. PM Ranil Wickremesinghe says legal action will soon be taken on 80 cases in which preliminary investigations have concluded. Pointing fingers. Former Minister Ravi Kaunanaike reiterates AG department should execute the law on other wrongdoers soon. Debt trap. Shop owners at Hinguragoda Public Market claim newly constructed building is on the verge of collapse. Samurdhi software. Minister S.V. Dissanayake says the list of Samurdhi beneficiaries will be compiled using software, but divisional secretaries are allowed alterations. Making headlines in the world of sports. Usain Bolt's final appearance ends in agony. Bringing you news from home and across the world, this is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Good evening, I'm Katharina China. On your top story tonight, Chairman of the National Force to Protect the Rights of War Heroes, U.D. Vasantha, engaged in a hunger strike opposite the Fort railway station, but was admitted to the Colombo South General Hospital this evening. Members of his organisation were engaging in a protest campaign for a 6th consecutive day, and Vasantha commenced his hunger strike on Friday.
The National Force to Protect the Rights of War Heroes was continuing their protest for a 6th day today. The disabled soldiers, who claimed that their benefits were slashed, demand a solution from President Maithripala Sirisena. The Defence Ministry had entertained protesters for a discussion on Friday, but National Force Chairperson U.D. Vasantha refused to accept mere verbal assurance from ministry officials and began a hunger strike alone. Vasantha was in poor health this morning, and while an ambulance was ready to transport him to hospital, he refused admission. His health deteriorated this evening and his colleagues rushed him to the Colombo South General Hospital for treatment.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that legal steps will be taken against 80 cases of wrongdoing whose primary investigations have been concluded. Addressing a public gathering in Kandy today, the Premier added that an industrial zone will be set up in Kandy with financial assistance of the Japanese government.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe arrived at the premises of the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic early this morning, and after participating in religious rites, he spoke to those who gathered at the premises.
We will renovate the golden roof which was built by late President Premadasa. It will be completely renovated. Preliminary investigations have been made into 80 such cases. Legal steps will be taken soon against wrongdoers. I met a representative of the government of Japan. He told me that Japan is interested in developing Kandy city as a cultural, Buddhist and tourist center. He also said that an industrial zone can be set up in Kandy.
The Prime Minister also participated in an almsgiving at the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic to commemorate his completion of 4 decades in politics. He then participated in prayer at the Mira Makkam Jumma Mosque in Kandy.
Ravi Karunanayake says the Attorney General's department should execute the law against other wrongdoers in the same way that it was executed against him. The former Minister of Foreign Affairs made this remark addressing a media in Kandy this morning.
Parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake arrived in Kandy this morning and visited the Chief Prelate of the Askiriya chapter, Most Venerable Warakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera.
If the AG department can do what they did to me with the information they had for 28 months, why don't they have the strength to execute the same law against the rest? If they can take action against me using me as an example, they should take action against the others. We will definitely consider the way the AG department has acted in this regard. My leader and my party will take relevant actions at the correct time.
State Minister of Foreign Affairs Vasantha Senanayake says there is a possibility of Minister of Development assignments Tilak Marapana being appointed to the post of Minister of Foreign Affairs. The State Minister made the remark responding to questions raised by journalists upon his return to the country following the 15th ministerial meeting of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation held in Nepal.
මෙච්චර පරක්කු මේ විදේශ කටු අමාත්‍යාංශයක ඇමති ධූරයක් නැතුව මේ දින කීපයක් ගත වෙලා තියෙනවා.
The appointment of a new secretary has been scheduled for the 15th. I believe an acting minister will also be appointed around that date. I will carry out my day-to-day duties.
කවුද පත්වීමට නියමිතව තිබෙන්නේ?
I can't say exactly. As far as I know, before I went abroad for the meeting, the discussion was on appointing Minister Tilak Marapana. However, we can't make a definite statement until the President and Prime Minister decide on it.
චෝදනා එල්ල වෙනවා විපක්ෂයෙන් එතුමා එම අමාත්‍ය ධූරයට සුසු නැහැ කියලා.
I believe it's not proper to draw a conclusion on whether or not he is suitable until he is given the chance.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa today called on SLFP members in the government to resign and join the joint opposition, saying that the party was in an abysmal state. The former president made the remark at a public rally in Dambulla today and also denounced the current state of the government.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa took part in an almsgiving ceremony to commemorate the late father of former Minister Janaka Bandara Tennakone. The former president received a hearty welcome from his supporters.
Within this period, we've witnessed the SLFP falling into an abyss due to its imprudent actions. I don't think it's right to work while sidelining those who built up the party. You know the state of the country today. There is infighting among ministers. They are bringing in no confidence motions against one another. They're branding one another as rogues. They are selling the country's resources. When a descendant of farmers became president and another became agriculture minister, we thought that the farming community would be relieved. What did they do as soon as they came into power? They banned thousands of paddy fields, citing a surplus of rice. They cut off the fertilizer subsidy. What has happened today? There's nothing to eat. Who dragged the country into this state? We ask SLFP members to immediately resign and join hands with the joint opposition.
Parliamentarians Bandulu Gunawardena alleges the possible no-confidence motion against Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa is an internationally sponsored attack carried out by certain contractors within the country. Further voicing his opinion about former Foreign Minister Ravi Karunanayake, the MP said that resigning his ministerial portfolio is not enough and that his accusations should be examined legally.
There are many accusations against Minister Ravi Karunanayake on misusing his powers when he was in office. Resigning his ministerial portfolio is not enough. His accusations should be examined legally. Minister Vijayadasa is being continuously attacked because he stood up for the country when UN Rapporteur Ben Emerson criticised the independence of the country's judiciary. He clearly said that Sri Lanka is no more a colony but an independent country. Now he is being attacked, but this is not a local attack. They are using local contractors, but my personal belief is that this is an international attack. No matter how different our political ideologies may be, I'm hoping to ask my leaders to stand up for Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa.
Co-convener of Puravasibalaya Gamini Vyangoda says that in spite of numerous shortcomings in the government's fulfillment of its election pledges, it still stands a chance of correcting itself. He made the remark during a media briefing on good governance convened today by a collective of various civil organizations.
We have not let go of our belief that we can still guide this government onto the right track. We will not resort to the alternative of bringing back the previous regime of gluttony. We are trying to correct the faults of this government and get them to fulfill the people's expectations as far as possible. If by some chance this government fails to do so, they too will be relegated to the dustbin of history.
Addressing media, Chairman of the Government Nursing Officers Union, Saman Ratnapriya, however, highlighted several pledges that the government is yet to fulfill.
The government has been in power for 2 years. The executive has been in power for 2 years and 8 months. When will the new constitution be brought in? Its draft is not even complete. When will the proposal to abolish the executive presidency be given for public approval? No court cases have been filed for 88 dossiers completed following the conclusion of relevant investigations by the CID and the FCID. Why can't they be expedited? We request the Attorney General and the Justice Minister to file cases for probes that have been completed.
Shop owners and residents charge that the Hinguragoda public market in Polonnaruwa, which is to be declared open in a month, has become a death trap as the 3-story building is on the brink of collapse. Although measures were taken to inform relevant officials of the state of the building, businessmen say that warnings have fallen upon deaf ears.
The
Hinguragoda public market in Polonnaruwa was constructed under the North-East Local Services Improvement Project at the cost of over 40 million rupees. The secretary of the Hinguragoda Divisional Secretariat said that the project, upon which construction began in March last year, was to be declared open last December, but it will now be vested to the Ministry of Provincial Councils and Local Government next month.
The roof has fallen apart. Nothing has been constructed to proper standards. A mild wind swept through the area and look what has happened. They have not considered quality when constructing this building. We found rubble even inside these shops. Officials should take steps to address this matter.
Shop owners charge the government has now called for tenders despite the state of the building.
Authorities have called for tenders where each shop will be rented out in the range of 15 to 25,000 rupees. When we came to inspect the location, we saw debris of the roof on the floor. Conditions are hazardous.
Now, a number of views were expressed in the political arena on the alleged plan to slash Samurdhi allowances, with State Minister of Highways Dilan Pereira warning of a possible ultimatum for Minister of Social Empowerment Welfare and Canadian Heritage, S.B. Dissanayake. Minister S.B. Dissanayake, however, assured that there was no reason for Samurdhi beneficiaries to panic.
Despite our request not to slash the Samurdhi allowance, if Minister S.B. Dissanayake continues to plan for it under the guise of reanalyzing the system, we urge President Maithripala Sirisena to issue a red notice to the minister, just as he did to former Minister Ravi Karnanayake. We can't allow ministers to run amok within this government. Some Samurdhi officers have become tools for the joint opposition. Our minister, however, has ordered the granting of the Samurdhi allowance to all who need it, and to obtain and investigate appeals from those officials who slashed the allowance. No one needs to panic. No one will be thrown out of the Samurdhi program. The newest list will be issued in January. Your information will be fed to a computer, and new software will be used to rate your status with a basic score of 100 points. The list is based on the information that emerges after being filtered by the software. However, machines can make mistakes. Those eligible for the allowance could be denied it, and others who are more fluent could be entitled. Thus, the relevant divisional secretary will appoint relevant officers and correct the issue.
UPFA MP Bimal Veeravansa alleges that independent commissions appointed by the government are powerless and that the government is trying to delay elections. He made these remarks at a forum held in Colombo today.
They will be sending Ravi Karnanayake on a 3-month vacation while keeping the public distracted. But he is not really on a holiday. Staff that he appointed have not yet resigned, and their vehicles have not been repossessed by the ministry. They are continuously trying to delay elections. These independent commissions are powerless, and we have an election commission that cannot conduct elections. Look at the way they are transferring police. Are they changed by the commission? They too are powerless. If Vijayakala Maheshwaran saved the murderer who raped and killed Vidya, then the government won't take the necessary legal action. Did they arrest Vijayakala Maheshwaran? Is this how they mete out justice for Tamils?
Now, police stated that a special 24-hour hotline has been dedicated for the reporting of any drug-related crime or organised crime to the Police Special Task Force headquarters. Now, information can be reported to the STF by dialing 011 258 0518, 011 205 8552 or 011 208 1040. Those numbers again, 011 258 0518, 011 205 8552 or 011 208 1040. Now with that, let's take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
A 26-year-old man succumbed to his injuries after colliding with a tree while riding his motorcycle last night. The victim, who was rushed to the Panadura hospital, has been identified as a resident of Bekegama in Panadura. 3 people were hospitalized following a 5-vehicle collision near the Kahaduru exit of the Southern Expressway last night. The Lanka Private Bus Owners Association says that they are not happy with the government's decision to increase traffic fines. The association's president, Gamlu Vijayratna, argued that if the government must increase the fines, bus owners should likewise be provided with infrastructure facilities. A memorial to commemorate all Navy officers who sacrificed their lives during the war was declared open by Navy Commander Vice Admiral R.C. Vijaygururatna in Kampala today.
On to Colombo equities now. In the week ending last Friday, the all share price index lost 1.14% and the S&P SL20 shed 1.59%. Average daily turnover was down from the previous week to 450 million rupees, while the diversified sector recorded the highest sector turnover during the week. Now, for a detailed picture of how the markets will perform this coming week, here's Dimantha Matthew from First Capital with our weekly forecast.
We expect the slowness in activity in the market to continue with the continued release of earnings of companies. The primary reason for the slowness is the weakness in company earnings. However, we expect buying interest to pick up towards the end of the week, primarily led by the foreign buying amidst the attractive valuations prevailing at the moment. As majority of the buying is led by foreigners, we expect buying interest to be mostly on blue chip counters.
On to another business news. The Ministry of Finance and Mass Media instructed line ministries, provincial ministries and the heads of departments to indicate the details of the output of projects in all budget proposals, accompanied by key performance indicators ahead of the 2018 budget, which is expected to be tabled by Minister of Mass Media and Finance, Mangala Samurdhi, in November next year. Issuing a statement today, the Secretary to the Treasury and Secretary to the Ministry of Finance and Mass Media, Dr. R.H.S. Samaratunga, said priority would be given for ongoing and foreign-funded projects where KPI-based measurable outcomes are identified for each project. The Minister of Finance said that improvements made in the performance of public finance management are forecast to bring in medium-term economic growth of around 6 to 7%. Having restricted India to 329 for 6 yesterday, Sri Lanka's hopes for a consolation victory in the third test against India were dashed as Hardik Pandya took the visitors to an imposing 487 all out. Now Sri Lanka then lost 11 wickets, being bowled out in their first innings for 135 and going to stumps at 19 for 1 in the second, requiring another 333 runs just to make India bat again.
Sri Lanka struck early to take Ridhiman Saha's wicket, but Hardik Pandya propped up the tail to score his maiden test century. Finally dismissed for 108, Pandya shepherded India to 487 all out, giving the Indian bowlers plenty to defend. Mohammad Shami got rid of both Sri Lankan openers, and by the 10th over of the innings, Kusal Mendes and Angelo Matthews were both back in the dressing room as well, with Sri Lanka at 38 for 4. The rest fell for just 97 more, with Dilruwan Pereira and Vishwa Fernando making ducks, and India were able to enforce the follow-on 352 runs ahead. 13 overs were bowled in Sri Lanka's second innings, and Upul Taranga was dismissed for a second time in 4 hours, with Sri Lanka going to stumps at 19 for 1, 333 runs behind the visitors with 3 days to play. That's gone.
Usain Bolt's final track appearance ended in agony yesterday as he pulled up injured while running the final leg of the World Championship 4x100-meter relay. Britain beat the United States for a shock gold medal, while Japan settled for a bronze.
Usain Bolt, who had only managed bronze in the individual 100 meters, had been hoping to sign off by leading Jamaica to a 5th successive relay gold. They were struggling in the third when he collected the baton. As he tried to gain ground, Bolt pulled up and fell to the floor with a suspected hamstring injury. A brilliantly executed race gave Britain gold in 37.47 seconds, the best time in the world this year, pushing the United States into silver at 37.52 seconds, with Japan third in 38.04 seconds.
On to tennis news now. And Roger Federer took advantage of a dominant service game to beat Dutchman Robin Haas 6-3, 7-6 in Montreal yesterday, setting up a Rogers Cup final against German Alexander Zverev.
Zverev ended Shapovalov's magic week on his third match point, though the 18-year-old had been the story of the tournament after a stunning run that included an upset win over the world number 2, Rafael Nadal.
US authorities are to investigate the violence stemming from a white nationalist rally yesterday that killed 1 person, injured more than 30, and challenged US President Donald Trump's leadership. Hundreds of white nationalists converged for a march yesterday in Charlottesville, Virginia, protesting the removal of a statue of a Confederate general.
A woman was killed and over 30 people injured when a car plowed into a crowd of counter-protesters in Charlottesville. US President Donald Trump condemned violence by quote-unquote many sides, but stopped short of explicitly condemning the far right. The far-right demonstrators, including neo-Nazis and Ku Klux Klan members, clashed with counter-protesters. 20-year-old James Fields from Ohio, the alleged driver, is in detention on suspicion of second-degree murder, and the FBI has opened a civil rights investigation. Apart from the car ramming incident, Charlottesville police said at least 15 were wounded in other violence related to the far-right march.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif called for change and revolution as he ended a 4-day procession from Islamabad to Lahore yesterday.
Addressing tens of thousands of supporters in his party's eastern stronghold yesterday, Sharif criticizes the Supreme Court for his ouster, saying he would not sit at home now and would change the fate of the country. His removal last month for concealing assets has plunged the nuclear-armed nation into political uncertainty. On Wednesday, Sharif set off on a 370 kilometers journey in an armored vehicle in a display of street power against the court judgment. It was announced that Sharif's wife, Kalsoom Nawaz, would contest the vacant parliamentary seat this Friday.
In your weather forecast tonight, we can expect the week to begin with wet weather in the eastern, over, northern and north-central provinces. Showers can be expected in the Jaffna district and the coastal region in the west of the island. Cloudy skies can also be expected over most parts of the island. Up next is the weekly forecast for the next 24 hours. And before we go, we'd like to take you to Switzerland, where one of the world's greatest fireworks shows went on display last night as the final flourish of the annual summer festival in Geneva. Now, the breathtaking show, which took place above Lake Geneva, featured a variety of sequences enthralling an audience of thousands from across the world. With that, we come to this end of the edition now at First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.